can't believe. I said, well, can you? No. I said, I know. And she said, you said you know why. I said, well, I do. She said, how can you possibly know why? I said, well, you've been a doctor for a long time, haven't you? Well, yes. Can sometimes people walk into your office and before they say a word, you already know what the problem is? She said, well, oh, so you know, don't you? I said, I think so. She says, okay, I want to know, what's the problem? I said, well, who hurt you the most? And she says, what do you mean, who hurt me the most? Was it your father or your mother? No, it wasn't my father, and my mother, she loves me. And I said, did she hurt you many times? Yeah, but never on purpose. And I said, well, those are wounds that occurred in your heart, and those aren't healed yet. And she says, what are you talking about? Those are wounds in my heart that aren't healed yet. I said, because those wounds are real, just like a wound physically. If I tripped on this deck and fell and really cut open my arm, that was a wound. And that wound would heal itself if I came to you and you cleaned it out and maybe put a stitch or two. It would heal itself, wouldn't it? She said, well, yes. And if I didn't come to you and some dirt was way down in there and I didn't know it, would it heal completely? And she said, no, it can't heal. It would become infected. I said, that's right. And would that infection grow? She said, yeah, it'd go over your arm and you'd eventually have some red lines and it could affect your getting a fever and all kinds of things. I said, that's right. Now take that and apply that to a heart wound. I said, when a heart wound happens, whether it's intentional or not intentional, it's a wound in your heart. Your mother wounded you many times. And she interrupted me and started arguing. I said, I'm not attacking your mother. I'm just making an observation. And I said, if there was nothing in those wounds, if there was no dirt, the wounds would heal themselves. And you wouldn't have any wounds today. You'd have scars. And I said, I have a scar in my hand right here, great big long one, from what happened when I was a kid. But you know what? That doesn't hurt. It's healed. And when a wound in our heart is healed, it's a scar, but it doesn't hurt, it doesn't bother us anymore. But if the wound in our heart has some dirt left into it, it will never heal, just like a wound in your hand. Therefore, it could be 20 years old, and you could still have a wound that's infected in your heart. I said, you have many infected wounds in your heart from your mother. And she started getting a little angry. And she said, my mother maybe hurt me once or twice, but that's not it. And I stood up and I said, you know, here's a suggestion. Why don't you take a piece of paper and sit down by yourself on the back of the boat one day and just sit down and try to remember over the years the different wounds that your mother gave and just fill the page. And she said, there may be 2 or 3, but that's it. I said, well, if that's it, then show it to me. And I got up and I excused myself and left.